Hey, hockey fans. Welcome to our live stream, Founding Four podcast in the house. We are two Latinas with spicy women's hockey takes, men's hockey takes, just hockey takes.
Hockey takes.
Hockey takes.
So it's all about that hockey.
Exactly. Let me, we're getting everything going on, what's it called? IG.
Oh, yeah. That was fun last week, me popping in.
Right?
For those of you guys who don't know, we don't just do the women's hockey on Black Rosie Media. We also cover WNBA. And there is another podcast. Of course, Founding Four is the flagship podcast of Black Rosie Media, but we do have a New York Liberty-based podcast that Erica runs with a couple of her W pals. And I was bopping around in the comments,
in the chat, yeah,
in the chat, and it was a good time. It was a good time. Women's hockey is something that like I've done for so long. So women's basketball is one of those things that I kind of dabble in. I enjoy it. I hope all the teams have fun. Even though I am a Mystics fan. But anyway,
I love it. Yeah.
But it was cool. Yeah,
it is cool. No, it's a good time. I'm still learning how to use the IG Live, so we're figuring it out. But thank you for joining on IG. We've got Twitter/X running, and of course YouTube. But we're back with our WoHo retro.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while. But you know what? I think this is perfect timing, especially because we have, I think, the perfect guest to join us to recap season number 3 of the National Women's Hockey League. That's the one and only Madison Packer. Hey!
How's it going?
It's going
hey,
well.
Madison.
What are these?
I know. I sound immediately.
Fresh. That is clean. Okay. That is a clean looking. What is it? A quarter zip?
It's a full zip.
It is nice. I was like, what is that, velvet? Like, what are we got?
Coming to America. I can't stand you.
Velvet? Oh man, it looks great. It looks great. You are always a welcome guest here at Black Rosie Media and the Founding Four podcast. But we were just cutting up here talking a little bit about what we've been doing. But Madison, what have you been up to? I mean, just like let's tap in. How's life going?
It's going. We just had Christmas with our 16-month-old and 3-year-old. That was a blast. So that was a good time. Just in the thick of it right now with training, getting ready for the season. We had a long 6 weeks almost training camp. Spending as much time as I can with my kids when I'm not at the rink. But it's fun. It's been a good experience to get to know some new people. Get to stay close to home, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously, with the PWHL New York being based where it's at, actually in Connecticut, I guess that's definitely cuts down on the commute for you a little bit. Not that the commute was ever that serious, I guess, Connecticut to Jersey, but still.
Yeah, it's definitely all things considered, it worked out well for me, right in my backyard. So it's been nice.
Awesome.
For sure. Okay, we're definitely going to get into the PWHL a little bit. And like Angelica just said, and you reiterated, you're closer to home with the 6 markets that have been named, 3 in the US, 3 in Canada, as we like to say.
Canada.
Just because mostly I'm silly. But okay, but the conversation, Madison, that we want to have with you is part of our women's hockey retro series, where we take it back. We started with the National Women's Hockey League because, well, this podcast started with the National Women's Hockey League. That's why we're the Founding Four podcast. And of course, the Riveters are one of the original 4 teams of that league that then became the PHF. But we want to talk about season 3. Before we do that, though, because sometimes in my mind, Packer, I try to be like, this season for the Riveters was a worst to first, but it wasn't really. Like, I just kind of ignore season 2 sometimes when that other New York team won. But let's start with just thinking about the transition from season 2, had a pretty stacked roster, were able to climb in the standings of the league, and then just fell short in the playoffs. Do you remember the conversations that players were having in the locker room? I mean, I think you had your like semi-retirement around that time. So like, what was the vibe after season 2?
Forgot about that. Whoa.
Throwback.
Whoa.
I'm saying that's why we do these WoHo retros. You got to remember.
I was reading through the notes that I had, and I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot. I definitely forgot about that. Wow.
Right.
Okay. I'm very sorry.
So like, take us back to the end of season 2, falling short in the semis, and then what led the charge for you to come back with the Riveters in season 3?
Yeah, I think I'll first take a step even further back. You look at season 1, that was like, but it was like that first season, it takes maybe 3 to 5 years to establish like a good, real, solid culture, right? But for whatever reason in New York, like almost immediately we accelerated that. And there was from day one, just this sense of like pride and togetherness, and kind of everyone was on the same page of building what we were building. And so it accelerated that process for us. And then at the end of that season, I still say to this day, that's maybe my favorite team I've ever played on, because it just was knowing that we were less talented on paper than a lot of the teams we were playing against, and still everyone coming to the rink and just like giving it gas and understanding that it was about building and we were a part of something bigger than ourselves that season. Like there's a lot of respect that you gain for one another in that process. And we really became a close knit family. And then that team changed a lot going into season 2. But you still hold on to those values. And like, that's kind of what we wanted our identity to be, a team that was hard to play against, a team that competed. And now you had some rollover players who had the experience of winning it with different teams at different levels. And that then it was coupled with some kids coming out of college who added a different element to the roster. But it still is a slow build. Right. And so it was kind of like from day 1, season 1, it was just slowly going upward. And then like kind of towards the end of the middle of that season 2, things really started to click and we kind of hit a stride. I think, I don't know if Russo was on the team yet, but like a few of us just started to, I don't think she was, but a few players started to just kind of like come into their own and own a bigger role. And then we lost, and it was just like so deflating and upsetting. Also during that season, you'll remember all the funding was like, oh, you're getting paid. Just kidding. You're going to get paid an unknown amount of money periodically for games and practices. Like, so it was just like, okay, do you want to quit because you have to pay your bills, or do you figure it out and keep playing and keep going? And that was something that was really synonymous with the Riveters identity. And at the end of that season, I had to have hip surgery, and there was a lot of stuff that we won't go into on the podcast, but I was just like, I'm out of here. Like, I can't do it. And then I met this person named Anya and decided to stick with it. I had to call Chad and like, hey, I really want to come back. What do you think? I was a captain for the 2 seasons prior. He's like, well, you can't be a captain anymore because we already named captains. And then I called every player on the team that year before the season. I was like, hey, I know I like retired and didn't go out in the best of fashions because there was some stuff that went on, but I want to come back. Like, how do you feel about it? And every person I talked to was like, yeah, for sure. Like, would love to have you. And again, we just like from day 1 started building again with that core group of people and adding some new faces in. And it was a lot of fun.
Wow. I appreciate you taking us back, because I do remember the retirement, and that was a difficult time for you. Like you said, there was just some things that you were working out with your body, definitely things that you were working out with where you wanted to be with the league and the team. And so, but you do get it together. And you mentioned some players that really came into their own even in season 2. I think we definitely saw that in season 3. But before we get there, the one thing that I want to go back to, first I want to go back to Chad Wiseman, and then we will definitely talk about Anya, now Packer. But let's start with Chad, because you mentioned that it takes a little bit of time to grow kind of a winning culture. And what I remember in our, as I was reflecting on our WoHo retro, is that we started hearing at the end of season 2 and definitely going into season 3, that Chad Wiseman always had this vision for the Riveters, that by the 3rd season that he wanted things to come together. And considering how season 1 went, and honestly considering how a lot of people gave Chad a lot of grief after season 1, I think it's really remarkable that he was able to, at least from my vantage point, stick to his guns. What do you remember about Coach Wiseman going into season 3, and how do you think that his vision for the Riveters and for that team was able to come together as the 2017-18 season went on?
I think the biggest thing about Chad is he's a really good coach, but he's an incredible person. And that was something that we saw like in the locker room from day one, just his values, again, going back to culture. He is a really big family guy. He's got a son that has some challenges, and he was away from his wife who was going through some health stuff. And he just always showed up for us, but also always showed up for them, and kind of infused his family in with the family that we were building together. And I think that there's a big trust there, right? There's a difference between liking someone and loving them. And we really all leaned in and learned to love one another and accept each other's goods and bads and ups and downs together. And he taught us all individually how to be, obviously there's captains and this and that, but he taught us all how to be a leader in our own way, and how, different types of leaders are important in what you're building. He just had a different way of doing things. And I think part of it was he had so recently been an athlete at a high level, and was always like just there and almost. And he was obviously talented to have played in the NHL, but I think his bigger attribute to the game was that he just worked his tail off, and he earned every inch that he got. And that's something that it doesn't matter how talented you are, you can always outwork the other team. And that was another thing that he just drove home with us. I mean, he used to skate us into the ground season 1, and his why was like, I don't want you guys to hate me, and I'm not trying to punish you, but this is how we compete. And it was true, right? I mean, we won that game against Boston. That was like, felt to us like miracle on ice. But it was because we were prepared, and we, a lot of the same players were going over the boards every time. A lot of players were playing different roles, and we were physically prepared, even if we weren't, on the same level from a talent standpoint. So I think that just going through that process together, and you really have to believe in what you're pushing towards. And as he got different pieces to the puzzle, it became easier for him. His job was the hardest day 1. And as he kind of figured the puzzle out and put different things into place, it became easier and easier for those systems that he was implementing and things like that to be successful. And the other thing is he really cared, which I think goes a long way with your players. Again, just going back to that emotional connection and commitment. He gave us every single thing he had every day. And that made it fun to show up to work and made you want to give that back.
Yeah, for sure. I know that Angelica and I talk a lot about defense, mostly because I love defense. But I think what we started to see,
I like defense too. Jeez.
I mean, I know, but like I love defense. I always push the agenda for sure. But I think one of the things that stands out to me, at least from the roster, is that you had not just defenders and blue liners that, like you mentioned, were playing at a high level coming into the league, but you also had a blue line that could activate offensively. Sometimes, for my liking, a little bit too much, but it seemed to be effective. What do you remember about kind of the systems and what Chad was able to do with some of the players? I mean, I'm thinking of Courtney Burke in particular on defense, but then you also had as a forwards, you had Mie Dench, Alexa Grushow. I mean, you came back. What can you say about how maybe first the defense, but then also just the systems and the way that the team was able to skate was a little bit different than what we saw in season 1 and 2?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest thing was the speed. Obviously, you look at players like Russo and Grushow, they can motor. So you have the ability to start to make lines and pairings of players that lean into people's strengths. Mie Dench is a gritty player who can score goals. She's got a high hockey IQ. So that was another big part, is having players that see the ice in a similar fashion and see those high level plays. Courtney Burke to this day is one of the best defensemen I've ever played with at any level. She was, in my opinion, a big miss for USA Hockey. She just, the way that she sees the ice, the way that she makes plays, her ability to get back is just incredible. Jenny Ryan, another good defenseman that we had, similar, played at Wisconsin with her. So it's just a lot of those players also having played together, at the college level. So it was fun to play with Burke because her and I played together at Wisconsin. And sometimes, like I remember off the top of my head, a couple times on the power play, she would make plays and we didn't even have to look at each other because, again, you have that familiarity. So Chad would work those players in together into different systems. And then like a situation like the power play, there was no system. It was just, you guys be creative. And it kind of goes back to that, just like having fun, natural flow, making plays happen. And I think he did a good job of recognizing what different players' strengths and weaknesses were. So like for me as a power forward, it's helpful to play with a player like Russo or Grushow, Erica Lawler, who they can get up and down the ice really quickly, find open spaces. I can go battle in the corners, get them the puck, then get to the net. It just was there was a lot of strategy and almost chemistry that went into the way that he paired people together. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned being one of those teams that you might not be the most talented on paper, but you guys are going to give it 110% all the time. I can easily say, as somebody who watched the Buttes and covered the Buttes for a number of years, you guys absolutely did that. One of the first things I remembered from this season was the game in Rochester back in November of 2017, the gigantic situation that spilled out onto the ice. Do you remember?
Situation here.
Do you remember any of that? And
was that with Casorso?
Yeah, it was with Casorso.
That was because she drilled me from behind in the final with like 3 minutes to go, and I was like 2 feet from the boards.
Yeah.
So that was she had that one coming.
Fair enough. And
I'll point out that I got her helmet off and then I stopped. Most people
fair. Listen, I was not putting that all on you. I saw it from all time. I remember I was there and it was my then girlfriend's first ever NWHL game. So we're in Rochester and she's sitting there with this look on her face like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I'm like, don't get excited. This doesn't happen all the time. This is definitely not a common occurrence. She goes, really? Man. But I just remember that clear as day. Just it kind of just speaks to the rivalry specifically between the Riveters and Buttes. I feel like those are two teams that to me at least kind of exemplified that kind of rough and tumble style and that kind of, they'll blend finesse, but they'll also mow you down. Can you speak to a little bit of that and not just to the identity, but, what you kind of saw with that kind of going back and forth between those two teams?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes it fun. Like, joking aside, I loved battling against Casorso. She's a good player. We would go back and forth both all the time. But it adds a different element, right? Like with playing within certain boundaries, it adds an element to the game that can be distracting. It can be motivating. It can bring energy. I think Maddie Elia is one of the best at doing it. She's like the Sean Avery of women's hockey. God, just you love to hate her, but again, off the ice, nothing but respect, and that's a testament to playing the game the right way, right? Like she was never sliding out butt ends or running people from behind. Like she just would run her mouth and she was gritty, but she also found a way to put the puck in the net. And that's kind of the way that I like to play. So it's fun to play against those players. But in the moment, it's like, you're like so mad and grumpy, but it's good. It brings a different element to the bench, to the locker room, to the game. And, the Buttes had a few of those players, Devin Skeets, that just had a little bit of an edge to him.
Yeah.
Harrison, when he was playing on the Buttes, it was fun to have him come over to the Rivs because that was one that I didn't like going up against. But the Buttes, there was a battle there.
Yeah, for sure. We saw it every single time. Anytime I saw the Buttes and Riveters matching up, I was like, oh man, this is going to be fun. And it was. It was a lot of fun. It was stressful at times, but definitely one of those matchups that it's like, I feel like it's really And I mean, we saw it again this season in the final. I mean, those are the top two teams in the entire regular season, 1 and 2 going up against each other. And can you talk a little bit about that final? I mean, it came down very much to the wire, essentially, if I'm remembering correctly. You talked
I remember very accurately. We can talk about it.
Listen, I'm asking the player here. I like to put it out of my mind, but when I looked back, I was like, oh wow, it really was just 1-0, wasn't it? You just take me through, just what you remember of that final and especially going up against that Buffalo team.
Yeah, I don't really remember a lot. I remember Grushow had a beautiful goal coming down, I think the right-hand side. Just a beautiful shot, kind of earlier in the game. I think in the first period, even
it was.
Okay, and then it was just like, wait, is this happening? Like, right? Because you have to remember, a lot of these players have been so used to losing, and now all of a sudden we're in the final and we're winning 1-0 against Buffalo, who we've gone back and forth with all year long. But Fitzy played out of her mind. Like, everyone just kind of played smart, sound hockey. No one was taking chances, and again, it goes back to just that belief in each other and belief in Chad and what we were doing, just to no one strayed from the systems. We had a really good neutral zone forecheck at that time that everyone, it was just finally was clicking. And it was like, to this day, I like love it, because I think that it was a big part of our success down the stretch. Everyone bought into what we were doing and it was impossible to beat. And just kind of everything aligned perfectly. And then I remember at the end of the game, I think Elia was had the puck in the neutral zone. And like maybe they went off sides or something, or I slashed her, but like there was like 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And I remember her coming through the neutral zone with the puck, and in my head being like, absolutely not. And the buzzer went, it all went wild.
I love that. Maybe I slashed her. Not sure though.
Maybe, yeah, maybe that's the part we don't remember so much.
Of course, that's a little funny.
What was it, a penalty or not? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't call it, right? So it's fine. It must have been fine.
Yeah.
He probably remembers.
Probably.
Right?
She'll probably mention it next time. Like, if y'all ever link up again, she'll probably be like, yeah, remember when you slashed me in the neutral zone? Like,
remember when you broke my wrist at the end of the final?
Yeah, right?
Gosh.
And you'd be like, no, wow.
Not
really?
ringing any bells.
Sorry.
Not ringing any bells.
Yikes.
Okay. So let's take it back though a little bit, because I do think that this was a really special squad. Of course, you had the OGs like yourself, and I mean, you had Bray Ketchum, Akira Dostal, Arena now. There were just so many. I mean, Ashley Stretch Johnston. There were so many players.
Stretch, come on.
Excuse me. You never forget. Stretch. So I think that there was a little bit of that nostalgia for that season, especially for the fans who remember Aviator and just stomping on the bleachers, making so much noise in a season that didn't bring many wins, but so many memories. And can you talk about what it was like to be in that OG core, also knowing that leading up to the final, it was reported that Chad was gonna move on from the league and from the Riveters. So we heard that right as we were going into, I think it was right before the final. But when did the team kind of know that Chad was gonna be moving on, and how, if at all, did that impact just kind of the emotion of going down to the stretch in the Isobel Cup final?
Yeah, I think that it was obviously hard. Like, Chad was, again, a big part of that family that we built, and impossible to replace. Like, so it's just, he was one of a kind, very unique in what he did. And everything that we built in the beginning was the first of something. And Chad was the first coach of that team, right? There's always something nostalgic about like experiencing something the first time. And so it was sad for a lot of us, because we were like, oh, well, like, what does this mean? Things are finally good, right? We hadn't won yet. And we found out a little bit before that game. But we're like, it just felt kind of a little bit unfair, or a little bit like, are you kidding me? Like, we have a good thing going. We're finally starting to click. And people were upset, but I think people were also like, okay, well, let's do this for Chad. Like, because while you want good things for yourself, you also want good things for other people. And, you know, it had been known that, again, Chad had a lot going on with his family. He wanted to go back closer to home. He had big aspirations of coaching in the OHL or coaching in the NHL. He ended up getting a great job right back in his hometown, I think with Guelph. Like, so he's home. It's a great setup for him. It's a team he wanted to coach. So while it sucked for us, it's like, you know, this guy just had a slam dunk, and he did his job here, right? He needed to get coaching experience after playing at a level that would gain him the respect to continue coaching at that level. And he did it. You know, he started, you know, literally at the bottom and built it and figured it out and gained that opportunity for himself. So we were sad, but we were also happy for him. I remember after that season, then he was kind of putting the team back together. And because they hadn't hired a new coach yet, they went on to hire Randy. And
that's the next WoHo retro. I don't know. You're welcome to join if you want for that one.
He was like, it doesn't matter who the coach is. You know, guys in the NHL play for teams all the time before they know who the coach is. And we were like, yeah, but it's you. Like, he didn't really understand why we cared so much about who the next coach was, because I think that if it had been, I don't know, I think that he did just such a great job that it was intimidating and a little scary to us to think about playing for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, and I like that you also said, because I don't think that we see, or it's not reported as getting an opportunity at a high level and making the most of it and then going somewhere else. I think there is a balance between kind of air quotes using women's hockey just as a stepping stone and being able to use the opportunity in women's hockey, women's sports overall, to really cut your teeth. I think, I mean, maybe for some people it's the same, but I get the sense that from what you're saying that Chad really did take his role with the Riveters and with the NWHL seriously.
Yeah, and I think some people felt that way. I never felt that way about Chad. I know that Chad had the opportunity to leave before that, and he didn't. I think that he was really committed to what we were building, and he had opportunity to leave for a better opportunity for coaching, and he also had some playing opportunities that came about while he was coaching us, and he was committed to what we were doing. And so I never really felt like he was using us as a stepping stone, but I did feel like there was a part of him that was, again, like, he just is a good guy, and his family situation was what it is. And the opportunity in Guelph probably wouldn't have presented itself had he not done the job that he did with the Riveters and them needing to make a change at a time that worked for him. And so I think that he just made the most of his opportunity. And when the one, like, you know, his almost or maybe dream job came about, how do you say no to that? And how do you hold it against someone for taking it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing that I don't know, and it's, I think I want to say that I feel like it almost went underreported how much traveling Chad was actually doing. And, it was insane.
He was driving, like, we would get off the ice from practice at 10:30. He'd jump in his truck and drive home to take his son to school or to help his wife with something. And then he'd, you know, sleep there, jump back in the car the next morning and drive back for practice. Like, it was crazy. He hired his brother as a coach, who was a great coach as well. Like, he really invested in building what we were building, and it didn't really matter to him what inconvenience that was for him. He had a business at home too. He had just opened a restaurant and bar that his wife was kind of then all of a sudden managing on her own with 2 kids at home. So, like, he had a ton going on, and he held it together pretty well.
That's wild. Okay. Angelica, I think it's time for us to go back to Anya, because we said we were going to talk about it. And Mad Pack, you dropped a little nugget for us. So again, between season 2 and 3, you were kind of trying to figure out what a path forward even looked like for you. And you mentioned it earlier, Madison, that season 2 abruptly changed. I feel like a lot of times we say at the halfway point, I don't think it was. I don't think
it was December.
Yeah, I don't think
it started late October, early November. I think it was, if I recall correctly. It happened like a month in.
Right, but Angie at that time, Anya Bottolino was player / ED of the Players Association.
Yes, true.
And so
she hated me.
I was gonna say, all right, so let's talk about
let's I guess that's the question. How did that start?
Hated me.
So yeah, I guess kind of rewind it. Where did it become a hate to like I tolerate to like I think I'm in love? Like what did that look like?
Well, like I didn't know she hated me. She hated me because I like all this stuff was happening, and I'm like, you're the head of the PA, like do some PA thing. Like I was like calling and texting her all the time. I'm like, I was, oh my gosh, I was such an ass. But like it was like all these players were upset, right? And we had a PA. We were still learning. I mean, it was so like early and everything that was going on. And Anya was just starting to build relationships with people. And so I was just like, no one's gonna say anything about this. So I reached out to Anya and I was like, hey, this is wrong, that's wrong. Like, why aren't you doing something? Or what does your title mean if you're not able to do anything? And she was like, so at the time she would always respond with some like very politically correct, like this is how the process works. I know it's frustrating. And I'm just like, oh, this chick, right? But then I come to understand the process and get to know her better. And like, eventually all was fixed pretty incredibly. Like she turned a lot of those things around. But I don't even know. Like, I think that, honestly, I don't know why she ever talked to me again. Like looking back, like when we talked about, so then I had this situation with that got ugly with the league, and I retired, and I was like, I'm out, and then that was rectified. I thought I might want to play again. So I talked to one of my teammates and she was like, oh, you should reach out to the head of the PA. And I was like, why would I do that? But then I was like, oh yeah, probably should, to like help, mend some relationships and blah, blah, blah. So Anya and I started talking, and she was just nice and was very helpful. But then like years later we were talking about it, and she was like, you were such a jerk when we first met. Like you made my life hell, and you were the only player that did blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no shock. But also it made it better. I don't know. Like, yeah. So then she like helped me get back with the ribs, and then we started talking, I guess. Yeah.
And the rest is history.
She kind of stalked me, actually. Like I was not interested at first.
Oh.
Yeah, my head was not screwed on right back then. I was a jerk. I'm a different person now.
I won't lie. She has mentioned that kind of in passing. Like, yeah. Madison started out a little, but she's a sweetheart now. And I'm like, there's hope. There's hope for.
Yeah,
I honestly, though, in all seriousness, I really feel like people like. I don't know that Anya gets as much credit as she deserves for what she was able to do in that role, because obviously it's not the easiest role, as we hear now, dealing with player side of situation, but also dealing with everything that she's had to deal with. And for her to be able to get the 50-50 revenue split, for her to be able to get, so much as she was able to get for the players, especially during a time when, it was like, what's labor relations when it comes to women's sports, especially women's hockey. I really commend her for being able to do that job. And, it really did kind of start this season. We saw things like really start turning around.
Yeah, I think that, one, my wife is incredibly bright, and she's innovative. Her, full-time day job that she's had from day one is for a tech company. And so she works every day with companies that are doing all these different marketing things and are being innovative in these different ways. And she's also super tapped into the WNBA, which is an industry leader in everything that they do. And everything that they do in lockstep and in unison, which I think is super powerful and important. Mm-hmm. You look at the NWSL and what they're starting to do, the hype that's being created there. And she's the thing about Anya that is very unique and a lot of people don't understand is she truly doesn't care who gets credit for what gets done as long as it gets done and as long as it benefits the players. And, you look at a lot of what she did with the Riveters, it was super innovative and impactful and important. And she didn't care if her name was on it. She didn't care if she got credit or not. And I think that that's sometimes difficult for people to understand, especially in startup environments, because there's a lot of attention there. There's a lot of things that need to be controlled. But when Anya took over the Riveters, she basically said, okay, I'm going to take this part of the budget allocated to me, and I'm going to offload that and hire all these people around me who will make me better. One, two, are experts in their fields. She did a lot of work with Erica. Like it just was her ability to say, I'm very good at these things. I'm not good at these things, but these things are important. So how do we bring it all together and go forward? And she, in my opinion, crushed it as a GM because of all the things that she did and learned in her time with the PA. And also a unique thing about her, when she stepped down as the head of the PA, she stepped down because she carried it as far as she thought she could. And there was a lot of positive things happening. There was a lot of hype. She was getting a ton of attention, right? She was Forbes 30 under 30, all this great stuff going on. And she said, you know what? This is as far as I can take you guys. You need a lawyer because I think that there needs to be a CBA, like unionization conversation, and I can't take you there. And again, that takes a special kind of person to like build this huge ship, right? And then say, I'm not the best person to captain it anymore. I'm going to pass you guys off to this person. And then we had Nicole, who was also incredible. So.
Yeah, I got to talk to, both of you a lot during that span. And I was constantly learning from Anya about how she just looked at things. And to your point, yes, was also trying to take the best of what was happening elsewhere. I say this all the time, whether it's Founding Four, whether it was when I was with the Ice Garden, whatever happens, particularly in women's hockey, it shouldn't look to the 97 WNBA or I guess 2012 NWSL, but look at what those leagues have been able to do. And I still think that there's so much potential for women's hockey to really like 10x and level up because of all of those pioneering women's leagues, including in hockey, that came before. And to your point, Madison, I really do think Anya understood that, and she got that in a way that was really special and special to see. And we're gonna, when we close out in a little bit here, we'll talk about the PWHL, and because we got puck drop coming up. I'm so gutted. I never thought I'd be mad that I'm gonna be at a Winter Classic covering an NHL team that I cover regularly. And I'm so pissed because I can't participate in opening weekend, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I want to go back.
I'll be there. We'll get to that though.
Girl. Jelly. I'm so jelly. But it's going to be a good time. But I want to go back to this Riveter squad. You mentioned Fitzy, Katie Fitzgerald. What can you say about Katie Fitzgerald and her growth in the time that she was with the Riveters from start to that championship in 2018?
Yeah, I think she just got a lot more comfortable with the pressure. I think that coming in, she played at St. Cloud where she faced a ton of shots, and she was an incredible goaltender. But then you come and you play at a level where the players are different, the environment is different. You're in a totally different wheelhouse. So I don't ever think that it was like, Fitzy. Like she never really struggled, but I think that just every day she kind of got better and better, and she got more comfortable and confident being someone that we relied on, because in St. Cloud, it was the same way, right? Like there were a lot of times where she was facing a ton of shots in a game. That can sometimes be uncomfortable because like it should never be all on the goalie like that.
Right.
But I think that she learned to appreciate the pressure and appreciate the privilege, but mostly just continue to elevate her level of professionalism and manage the pressure better.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go through, we're going to go through some of the players on the roster here. And looking at this roster, oh man, these are some throwbacks. Like you mentioned Erica Lawler earlier. We mentioned Harrison, who is just coming off of an Isobel Cup championship. We talked about that. And like a lot of us in the media corps had like a real moment with Harrison after that Izzy Cup. We mentioned Bray Ketchum and Kira Dostal, Ashley Stretch Johnston. We just talked about Katie Fitzgerald, talked about Berkey a little, and Jenny Ryan. Let's go though with some association. I'll say one of your teammates from this season, and you just tell us either a funny story or like the first thing that comes to your mind. So let's go with Shelly Picard.
Shelly Picard.
Michelle
I honestly,
Picard.
when I hear Shelly Picard's name, I immediately think of Long Island University. But that's just because that's the most recent thing that I associate her with.
Fair enough.
But I don't know. Shelly was like a quiet, not like quiet in the locker room, really. Like was always super friendly, just a great, genuine person. But like was always like very mellow. Like it was kind of like the heartbeat, right? That just kind of kept the team calm and was obviously a really solid defenseman, very decorated in her career. But I don't have any like crazy Shelly stories.
I feel like if anyone had a crazy Shelly story, I'm not sure I'd believe it.
Yeah.
Okay, what about Kelsey Colzer?
Oh, I already love that.
She's a good one. I love Colzer.
I mean, crushing it now.
When I think of Colzer, I think of when we threw the first pitch at a baseball game in Jersey together.
That's right. Y'all did that a few times, I feel like
Yeah.
reps from the team. That's funny. Okay, who else do we have here? Let's go with Brownie. I know we talked about Harrison, but like, what was it like to play with Harrison in that season?
He's awesome. I learned a lot about myself from playing with Harrison. Just a great teammate, very patient person, and like to this day, someone that I reach out to periodically. I just think that, speaking of people who don't get enough credit, I don't think that Harrison gets enough credit for what he has done. And people pick a side, whatever. It takes a lot of courage to be who you are in a world that wants to hate who you are. So I've got a lot of love and respect for Harrison.
Yeah, I think we all do. I think he's one of those people and one of those players. I mean, just remembering him from his time in Buffalo, and I ran into him last year. He dropped the puck for the Toronto 6 Pride game, and he still just had that awesome energy around him, and he really is definitely somebody who doesn't get a lot of credit. You're right.
Yeah, and he's a lot of fun too.
He is.
I love that. All right, you mentioned LIU. I think also Kelly Nash, right, has some LIU ties these days.
Yeah, Kelly Nash lived with me for a little bit. The Packer halfway house,
which is still going.
Teammates and roommates in and out of here.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I said, sounds like it's still going. We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Still running, yeah. And I'm still married, so we're good.
I love it. Okay, let's see. I lost my place here. Let's go to Bray. What was it like to play with Bray for those first few years?
Bray's like the team mom. Like she loves you for who you are and like accepts all of your quirks, but sometimes she's just like, oh, Packer, or like she's just right, like she's fun and she's cool, but she's just like, you don't want to disappoint her.
Oh, I feel that. I could definitely see that for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned Russo earlier, played on this team, and I know y'all have been pretty close. I mean, just immediate energy when it came to the Riveters. Like, it was immediate, and the way that Russo engaged with the crowd. What stands out to you, though, about Rebecca Russo?
I mean, she's my best friend in the world, so I think she's incredible. I love the way she plays the game. I think that she is deceptively fast. I loved playing on a line with her because she just pushed the pace and was able to create a lot of space for me. But Russo's a misunderstood soul, I think sometimes. She had a rocky end to her career, which was unfortunate because hockey means a lot to her. But I'm happy to see she's gotten back involved with the New York Rangers program. She does a lot of coaching stuff. She's working with Top Line in New York City, so she's getting back into the game and starting to give back, and really enjoys engaging with the next generation of players, which I think is pretty cool because she's another one who kind of drifted into the shadows, but was a big part of everything that we built and the momentum that was built around the NWHL and the PHF, which ultimately led to what we're doing now. So she's obviously a great friend of mine. She's family, but she's also a really good teammate and someone who did a lot to leave the game better than she found it.
We have Ash Bash over on IG just saying that Colzer is such a nice person in general, super down to earth, and now is coaching the next generation. So that's amazing. Was in the documentary Ice Queens, which was super dope. So Ash Bash, thanks for your comments. Anyone else, if you have comments or questions, have a few more minutes to get them in. Okay, back to it. We left off with Russo. Let's go to a player that didn't necessarily have a big role in 2018, but became synonymous with the franchise, and that is Rebecca Moose Morse.
Yeah, Moose is another one that just, from a culture standpoint, was a really good teammate and player to have around. She, like you said, started with a kind of a lesser on ice role, but was a really good presence off the ice. Those players are super important also to what you're building and team chemistry, team culture. Just, you need a certain number of bodies at practice. You have to have, there's a certain number of players you have to have on the roster. And sometimes people aren't always out there during the games, but Anya played a similar role when she was with the Whale. Moose was just a player who always pushed you in practice, wanted what was best for the team, was equally excited when good things happened, even if she wasn't, on the bench during the game. She recognized that her role was equally important in what we were doing. And she was someone that was really fun to play with and was another big part of the culture in the franchise that we built with the Riveters.
I love it. Okay, I want to go to, I mentioned Kira. We'll do Kira and Stretch as our last two. And then I have a phrase that I'd like you to hopefully explain and describe for us. But what can you say about Stretch and Kira?
I'll start with Kira. Kira lives actually not far from me now. She has 2 kids. Her daughter is about the age of our son. And then she just had another baby. But so Anya actually spends quite a bit of time with her. And it's a good friendship that we've continued to have. It's nice that she lives close. It's nice that we have kids that are about the same age. Kira is another one that just was, I played almost every season with her. It was a little weird last year playing against her. Not going to lie. She's just really, really good person. And I was blessed to get to play with her for as long as I did.
Yeah, for sure. And Stretch, the original captain, and then, as you mentioned, you also served as alternate and eventually were the last, oh gosh, why did I do this to myself? The last ever Riveters captain. But what can you say about Stretch?
Yeah, same, like just good person from the beginning, kind of what started that culture in New York about working hard, being a good person, about, the person next to you, not you, I guess. And also just a person that I learned a lot about leadership from, learned a lot about being a good teammate from. Stretch also had a lot going on during her playing career. So just someone I had a lot of respect for. Then obviously got to play, I guess, for her. She was the D coach, but played for her when we were up in the bubble. So another one that I've got a lot of really good memories with. When I think of Stretch, when I first hear Stretch's name, I think about our team trip to Japan, which is as far as I'll go into that. But a lot of good memories with Stretch too.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Okay, we are going to get into some PWHL stuff. Stretch to the rafters, exactly. I know that's been a rallying cry for Rivs fans for quite some time. We're going to get into some PWHL stuff. and I'm gonna let Angelica take the lead, not only because she's gonna get to see the inaugural game, but also she got to be in Utica. So, but before we do that, I guess it's technically two things that I want to ask / get clarification on. Madison Packer, what is a strategic partnership? Specifically, what was the strategic partnership between the New Jersey Devils and the Metropolitan Riveters?
I don't know.
Okay.
So just like the rest of us, fantastic. I love it.
I guess, yeah.
We did a game in the Prudential Center where we played before them, and then we went to their games and like handed out tickets, and we practiced at their rink.
Okay, yeah.
So that's pretty much what the Buttes ended up doing for like a season and a half with Pagula. So not very different, except they didn't have the ownership attached, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know is the best answer. Okay, the second
part. Is that a trick question? Did you just set me up? Am I gonna be?
No. Genuinely. So the running joke.
I'm gonna get a call from the PWHL social department.
Listen, I don't know. Do they have strategic partnerships? I actually.
No. Okay, we're not gonna talk about that right now. We're not gonna talk about that.
I know. I was like, wait, no. We're gonna separate.
Don't get me in trouble.
No,
not you. Not you. Not getting you in trouble.
This is us thing, particularly me thing. But no, like it's just kind of a little bit of a running joke. Like there were some of the partnerships or like the strategic alliances or like, you know, it was just the wording was very interesting and we didn't always know
strategic phrasing.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Strategic phrasing.
Correct. There you go. All right. Questions that needed answers. And
still ask me.
There you go. Okay. And the one question that absolutely needs an answer is, do you think, and I don't even know what this would mean these days, but will the Riveters ever get the championship banner back from Barnabas Health Hockey House?
Yes.
Yes. That is a yes.
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 I guess that means we know who's going to be breaking in at like midnight.
Yes.
I have one in my basement.
Like, not just like the mini one.
Erica, I got to send you sometime. Well, Woodsy's living down there now. Woodsy's living in our gym. So I had to take all the banners off the wall because Anya said it was inappropriate to leave all my ribs like memorabilia up. I left some of it up. But I have a banner from the championship.
Ooh. Okay, we're gonna need photo proof. Okay.
I want to leave one hanging right over Woodsy's bed.
Yes. Okay. So speaking of Woodsy knew.
I was gonna say all she would need to do is find a Toronto 6 championship banner and hang it over it.
There you go.
I mean, let's be real.
Let's go. We didn't get to that season in WoHo Retro yet. But,
I was good. I thought you, Erica, I fully thought you were gonna ask and see if Madison somehow knew what Anya did with the Isobel Cup handle. That's what I thought was gonna come out of your mouth.
No. I feel like I've done a lot of reporting on the handles over the years. So I wanted to know about the banner. I feel like that's where I wanted to go with it. But since you mentioned the handles, I heard a rumor, Mad Pack, that maybe the handles are in the Packer households. Can you confirm or deny?
Who said that?
I mean, sources. Sources.
We don't reveal our sources. Sorry.
We have a big attic.
They're not. So they're not there. Is what you're saying? Big attic. Like
I don't know
for them, but they're not there.
I don't go up there.
Okay. All right.
That's Anya's space.
Okay. All right. So we're just going to have APAC back. But okay, we're going to close out. We're going to talk, especially since it's starting to get loud here at Climate Pledge Arena. So, Angelica, let's talk a little bit about the PWHL and, of course, PWHL New York, who will be part of the first ever Professional Women's Hockey League game.
Yes. I mean, I guess we can start with, obviously, PWHL is dropping the puck in downtown Toronto, New York and Toronto. So yours truly will be there reporting. So I'll see you, Mad Pack. Can't wait. But, as we get closer to it, how are you feeling about where the team stands right now. Obviously you guys have your leadership group in check. You're heading into on the road against Toronto. It's kind of going to be a little bit of unfamiliar territory, but how do you feel going into this yet again another inaugural puck drop?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I mean, there's a lot of hype around it. The game's sold out. Lots of people are flying in. We got family coming. My kids, Anya and my kids left yesterday to fly to Detroit to meet my parents. They're driving up for the game. So it's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of really great things happening right now around women's hockey. So it's been exciting. I'm just grateful to be a part of it. I really like the team that we have in New York. I think that when all this, kind of came together, it's a lot to bring a lot of people who do and don't know each other into an environment where, in some cases things have been hostile in the past. And I just couldn't be more happy with where I landed. I think that it's a great environment to build something together in. I love all my teammates. You touched on the leadership core. They've been incredible. Just a lot of really, really great athletes, obviously, but truly also incredible people. And just from top to bottom, it's been great to get to know them, to play with them. The tempo, the pace, the hockey is incredible. And it really helps when you have a good culture and a good environment in the locker room. So it's been good. And I'm really excited to get up to Toronto with everyone tomorrow.
Yeah. I got to see a little bit, obviously, in Utica. Seems like you guys have a really fast team. Seems you guys have a good mix of kind of what we were talking about with the Riveters, that kind of blend of grit and, finesse. What do you think is kind of the identity of this team, and where do you see your role specifically as well?
Yeah, you touched on it. I mean, we want to be a fast team. We obviously have a lot of talent, but we want to be a team that's hard to play against as well. A team that gives the extra bump. I mean, that's tiring. That's not fun to go into that environment. So we want to be a team that is known for making other teams kind of earn every inch, which I think is good. That's been an identity amongst teams that I've been a part of in the past. And I think just a team that really is, again, centered on family. We talk a lot about that, just kind of the culture that we're building together, the importance of being there for one another. We have a really inclusive environment in our locker room. So the hockey is fun to watch. We have a lot of talent. Everyone on that roster is really good.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on the speed, the goaltending, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But lots of really good positive things happening. I think for me, it's just still taking it a day at a time. I've obviously been injured for a little bit. So just getting back into the swing of things. I kind of like how things are piecing together. The coaches seem to like what I bring. So not much should have to change, just play my game. And then they kind of slot me into where they feel that I fit, which hopefully should be easy and fun. Cause again, everyone is so good. Everyone blends together and plays together pretty well.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, it's interesting going from having playing against a team coached by Colton Orr to now being coached by him in the assistant capacity, as well as Laura Brennan, both coming over from the Connecticut Whale, the PHF. What now getting to know them on that kind of level, what can you say about them specifically and what they bring to the coaching style, as well as Howie Draper?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's a common theme, and I think it's a part of team sports, but just family. Colton has kids, so him and I chat a lot about our kids are similar ages. He's just a really, really good guy who cares a lot about the development, is a hockey guy through and through. He's got a pretty incredible story, kind of his journey to the NHL and then staying there. I always enjoyed playing against him. I think he's a guy of high integrity and really respectful. One that, you don't get that vibe that he's using women's hockey as a stepping stone. He's really invested in the growth and the development and the long-term of what we're doing. Howie, the same. I've been genuinely just through and through impressed with him since day one. Has a lot of similar tendencies actually to Venla Hovey, who I really enjoyed playing for last season. I think that, no disrespect to Evo, love him, but before I played for Howie, Chad and Venla were probably my two favorite coaches. Evo was a close third. And Howie reminds me a lot of Venla, just kind of his, the way he explains things, his care, his thought, his intention and behind everything he does, his focus on habits. I've really enjoyed getting to learn from him, get to know him better. So it's been a lot of fun. And obviously Laura being a part of, it's tough to be a bad person or a different type of person than the person that's kind of running the show, right? So her being in the Connecticut Whale organization with Colton has a lot of the similar values and just fundamental things that are important to her that she brings to our culture and our environment.
Yeah. Awesome. I definitely look forward to it. I know we have a few questions in the comments. Ash Bash asked on IG, what's one thing you're looking forward to in the inaugural season of the PWHL?
It's gonna be a lame answer, but honestly, going to Ottawa, I've never been, so
it's a cool city. I have been.
Pretty excited for that.
Yeah, not far from Montreal too. But yeah, Ottawa's a pretty cool city for sure.
And that's maybe my second is going back to Montreal. When we played in Montreal last year, it was sick.
Yeah,
like I didn't even care that the crowd was cheering for the other team because it was just such a cool vibe.
Yeah,
like they have a great turnout. Like Montreal are nuts for hockey, and the rink that we're playing in is a rink that we played in last year as well. Very, very cool. Just I'm excited for that trip too, because like it's just a good vibe.
Yeah, it's Verdun, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm glad that they were able to. I have not been to Montreal, but definitely been to Ottawa. Definitely, I'm excited to see what that team brings too. I think that that's going to be a really, really fun team to watch.
Montreal.
Ottawa. I think that's gonna be really interesting. As Erica's like, yeah, me too.
Some ribs over there, some former ribs.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of former PHFers landed on there. Michaela Grant-Mentis, I'm really excited to see back. And Akane Shiga, I'm also super excited about. So we'll definitely catch up there. But Greyhound 412 asks, as a player on PWHL New York, what should the fans use as a chant or best way to cheer y'all on? If you've been thinking about that at all.
Oh, I don't know.
I think the good old fashioned Knicks go New York, go would be pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's just me.
That came from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Arguably the worst one in the series, but at least Vanilla Ice gave us that Go New York cheer.
Fair. But I think it's a good old fashioned one. I'd be cool with it. But
Go New York, go.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I like that.
Go New York. CTPA, go. Okay, I had to put. Listen. I did it when they went to Metropolitan. I am a tri-stater through and through. Yes, I will always have gripes about that.
Girl, listen, I live in the one New York actual city that had a pro women's hockey team for the past couple of years. I get it.
You're right.
Geographically.
You're right. It's same in football. So I don't know. We gotta downstate's gotta figure out its life. I don't know.
Yeah, for real. Okay. Skylar is asking, what's your favorite item on the bookshelf behind you?
My national championship ring.
Good answer. We stand the Badgers.
Got the Revs ring back there too.
Nice.
Hey.
100th PHF point. Ooh. That's our little trophy display.
I was going to say
that's a ball.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I would say definitely the rings. The rings are pretty cool. I when we were at the Hockey Hall of Fame last year for All Stars, just going through and looking at all the NHL Stanley Cup rings, I'm like, they just got progressively bigger over time. It's just now they're like this massive. So a good championship ring is always,
I mean, so if you win one in the PWHL, you're gonna come on the show and show it off, bling ring for us.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, first of all, Mindy, that's a throwback. I see you, fam. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate that. But I think this is an interesting question, but I don't know. Has the Isobel Cup made its way back to the Packer house? Since technically you have a roommate now that won the last ever, at least as far as we know, in the PHF.
I have no idea where that cup is.
Fair enough. I don't think anybody does at this point.
Will we ever know? It's another WoHo mystery that we will have to try and solve.
I could guess, but I won't.
along with
Are
Crusher,
you sure? Wait,
championship banner,
don't move on yet. Don't move on yet. Are you sure you don't want to guess? Are you sure you don't want to guess on this here live stream?
She's not trying to get in. She's not trying to get in
Okay,
trouble.
I mean, I had to try. Come on. I had to try.
Listen, I get it. All right. So I think that was all the questions that we had in the comments here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any. Graham 412 says, I can't do that in Connecticut. Connecticut in all caps. That's hysterical. But I mean, again, we didn't choose the locations, but yeah, I mean, I think we've covered everything at this point in terms of not just season 3, but what's to come ahead. And I guess, we can kind of wrap up with, where do you see, I mean, it's still extremely early in terms of the PWHL, but where do you see this, like what's kind of the vibe heading in general? I know you touched on it a little bit, but kind of, what do you see happening from here now with the puck drop just around the corner?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of excitement. You look at, a lot of tickets have been sold. This is kind of more of the same, what we've been doing. The difference is that we have the assurance and the security and the a legal foot to stand on, if you will, that this isn't going anywhere. At least, we have enough time to build something without the fear of someone knocking the house down before it's done. That's hugely important. I've said from day one that it takes time to build things. We've had a significant investment over that period of time, but now we have an even more significant one. So I think that that's the most important thing for us to all remember, is that, we're starting over. And that's a good thing in a lot of ways. And that's hard in a lot of ways. I was very upset and heartbroken when the Rivs folded. I think that, not everyone took into account the emotion that a lot of those players felt, in different teams that they played for, et cetera. Dempsey is another player that had a really hard time. We identified in a big way with those franchises, but more importantly, we identify with what we're doing and what we've kind of been built for. Some of these players that have been plugging away for years and years, you look at Gigi Marvin, Hillary Knight, Jill Saunier, me, Fratkin, Cheyenne Darkangelo. There's a lot of players, and I missed a ton, but there's a lot of players that have been doing this from day one. And it doesn't matter if you were in the CWHL, the PHF, the NWHL, now the PWHL, there's a lot of P's in there.
Yeah.
PWHPA, all were equally important to this process. And I think that that's the most important thing, is that, the mudslinging aside, it's all doesn't matter anymore. We're all in the same building, on the same side, doing the same thing, fighting for the same thing, which is the future of the game, not the current stars, not anyone on a current roster, probably maybe, some of the younger guys, Mueller, Heisey, et cetera. But the growth that needs to happen from where we are to where we need to be is beyond those players. So it's your responsibility to put that aside. And it doesn't matter who gets credit for what we do. It matters that we get it done, because this is our last opportunity to get it done. It cannot fail again, because it just simply cannot. And I think that players are slowly recognizing that we are all pushing in the same direction. We all want the same things, because again, nobody who was in this just for themselves would still be in this, because there hasn't been enough in it for anyone to have anything to gain, other than you truly want what's best for the future of the game. And you need people to continue fighting for the little kids who deserve to have the opportunity to play at this level. So, long answer to your question. I hope that what's next is this. I think that I've been thoroughly impressed by, almost everyone coming together. You're still going to have outliers for sure, but eventually the once minority becomes the majority, and you need to have those people stick together, and you need to have those people recognize the power in their voice. And what we're building together is something pretty strong and pretty beautiful. And you've got a lot of people that are dependent on this happening, right? Women's hockey deserves a chance, and this is the best chance it's got. So
fair enough, and very well said. Lastly, how long is the teal going to stick around?
My hair?
Yeah.
It's actually not teal. Wait, guys, I have a terrible story I have to tell you. Okay, so day one of training, I have like insane levels of anxiety, right? So Anya and I went to this Athlete Ally event, October 21st. It was in New York City. It was a black tie event, and I was like, I went to get my hair done that day, and she was like, "You should dye it like a different, cool new color for the event." I was like, "Sure." So I went with lavender. It was a very, very pretty, cool, like light purpley silver. So it's semi-permanent, so it fades over time, right?
Yeah.
So like 3 days into, or 2 or 3 days into training camp, someone's like, we get these hoodies, which is like this color, right? Look at the wrong side. And someone compliments my hair and they're like, it matches perfectly. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh my God, you guys, I almost had a panic attack on the spot. I was like, oh my God, I didn't even notice that. And she was like, oh, we thought you did that on purpose. I was like, so we've been talking about this, like right? I'm so embarrassed. I'm like that mom that like thought it was cool to dye her hair the same color, or like get the braces, like, right? Like, I'm like, oh my goodness. No, it was an accident. Like, it literally just was like the universe just sticking me one more time, right?
Listen, I've done it. I put makeup on in my team's colors. It's fine. It happens. It looks.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Not when you're 32.
No.
So I just called today to get so I did it purple again because I had to prove to my teammates. I was like, guys, I need you to believe me. I told Woodsy this. I'm like, I need to dye it purple again because I need people to know that I didn't dye my hair teal for the team, right? Like Bible. So I literally went to the hair salon again and dyed it purple, got pictures because it was up in Utica. It was purple. And now it's faded to this. So I'm like, see guys, purple fades to teal. And I'm getting my hair done on January 11th and I'm dyeing it pink because we're done with this. So embarrassed.
At this point, it's just fate. It's
no,
done.
Everyone in the airport's going to think that tomorrow too. They're going to be like, God, that lady's really committed. Must be the mascot.
Oh my God. Listen, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, but now that you say it that way, I guess that's the end of my team themed makeup. Gosh.
No, makeup's different. Like, this is every day that I have to put this hoodie on to go to the rink.
Fair. All right. With that said, I will leave your hair alone for the time being.
Yeah. My cheeks got red.
Wait, so all right, let's move away from the hair, but in a similar vein, I mean, I remember talking to you getting ready for the N double single site and the fits. So do you have your fit picked out for January 1st yet?
I do.
You want
to give super exciting though. It's not super exciting.
Is it clean? Like, I mean, I feel like you're going to be able to pull it off regardless.
It's a window pane suit with a preacher collar shirt and some Louboutins.
Oh, excuse me. All right. As I sit here in my Walmart hoodie, like, no, that's
my wedding shoes. They're my wedding shoes.
Nice. Oh, that'll be awesome. That will be awesome. All right. Well, I am very happy. I'm excited to see it. Hopefully I get to see it and the border doesn't play some games with me today or on Monday. But don't worry, they haven't found out yet. I'm good. But I'm good. I ain't getting in trouble. Anyway, definitely want to say a huge thank you to Madison Packer for joining us. As always, it's a pleasure. Best of luck in the inaugural puck drop, and we'll see you there. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in. For Erica, who is very busy right now, about to cover a Seattle Kraken game, and myself, who is about to turn on the Avs game. This has been the Founding Four podcast. Listen, okay, y'all won the playoff series last year. We can stop talking about Erica. But this has been this has been the Founding Four podcast. We are two Latinas with spicy hockey takes, and we will be back with WoHo Retro Season 4, as well as some other live streams, hopefully down the line, discussing PWHL puck drop and opening week and all that fun stuff. So for Erica, for Madison, I am Angelica. Thank you so much, you guys, and love and peace, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.